Hello, this is Dixie with DC Papercraft, here to show you a fun project using gesso and your distress inks and stains and some stencils and lots of fun messy stuff. So let's get started. First off, let me show you this stencil I created. I cut it out on my silhouette and it's paper, and then I gave it a good coating on both sides with Mod Podge just to help it be more water resistant. And this has been used, 5, 6, 7 times. Still holding out pretty good. I did cut it with the thickest cardstock I had. Maybe that helps. I'm going to lay it down on my tag. Actually, I'm going to move that out of the way for just a moment. And I'm going to make my gesso. And I want to make it, I don't want it to be bright white, so I'm going to add some color. I'm just going to use some distressed ink, weathered wood, and I am going to press it really good into my pad here. Onto my mat. And then I'm just going to add the gesso right on top. I'm just going to use a palette knife, and I'm going to mix in all that color. Just going for something slightly gray, which weathered wood is great for that. Alright, so you can see it's not dramatic. And then I'm going to lay out my stencil. And because my stencil has flat edges, I'm going to try to leave a rough edge so it looks kind of like a broken wall. I'm going to have to do that one all by myself. Now that I've kind of got it the way I want it, I'm just going to go in. I don't want it any thicker than my paper is. And then I'm going to give it texture just by picking up this palette knife and putting it down. You could use a popsicle stick, you can use your finger. Go back and smooth out some of it. That looks good to me. And there we go. Oh, not too bad. Good, good. So I would just wipe this off with a baby wipe or a paper towel so it doesn't have the texture on it. Here's my tag. You might want to clean your edges real quick. I'm going to set this one aside and bring up one that I've already done. This, if you use a heat gun, it's probably going to take you about 10 minutes to dry with the heat gun. Otherwise, just let it sit for an hour or two and come back to it. So here's the one that I made previously, and we are going to add some color on the side, and then we will start adding in color in between the stones that looks like the mortar. I'm going to start with my lightest color first. The gesso does resist, so I'm not going to worry about when I'm getting it on there. So I'm using mustard seed and picked raspberry and peacock feathers, just because they're pretty and I like those colors. Let's add a little bit of water. You see the water makes the stain come right off of the gesso. Helps it blend. And I'm actually going to add a little more yellow down here because I want to bring out a little more green. Just a touch. Just want a little more green there. Alright, and now that it's dry, I'm going to start adding my ink. Let me get some things out of the way here. For my ink, I'm going to bring in weathered wood again and pumice stone and kind of blend them till I get a color that I like for my mortar. So, whoops, everything's going everywhere. I'm going to get this inked up really well, and then I'm just going to start bringing it in. I don't want to bring it in too much over this color. But I am moving in circles because I want it to get in all the way around. I want to get right up next to these bricks. I'm going to give it a little bit of a squirt here. I like this color in here, but I know it's not going to stay, so I'm just going to rub it off. But I can give it permanent color if I bring in one more distress product. Which one's missing? Distress paint. Okay, so I'm going to bring in walnut stain distress paint, and I'm just going to put a little bit on. In fact, I'm just going to add it to my mat. Let's see if I can just pick it up here. Don't worry, this isn't all going to stay on there. So what I'm going to do is take a clean side, spray the towel with water, and start to remove but there. Now we have a little earthier feel. And I could have taken the paint right to this, but it would have used a lot of paint. And you can see I used just a little bit of paint and added some texture, brought out the texture. And as long as this is still a little bit wet, you can take it off. And I think that even when it is dry, you can take some of it off with a baby wipe, the kind that do still have the alcohol in them. You take acrylic paint off. Alright, so we are almost done. I need one more ink. I'm going to bring in the walnut stain ink. Finish off the edges. See how it just ties everything together to finish off that edge. And we are going to start to make it pretty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a couple of flowers here. I think I'm going to stick with the pinks and the white. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz scissors and just clip these off right at the edge there, right at the top. So I'm going to use 3 of those. Have some leaves that were cut with a steel rule die. I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was. I'm so sorry. I borrowed it from a friend so that I could do this with a class. And I'm just going to show you how I would build this and not take the time to glue it all down. But we are just going to maybe add this one a little further in. I really want the leaves to not be draping too far, but you can do what you would like, what feels good to you. I'm going to add the polka dot side over here. And then, and one last touch, I'm going to add a little butterfly in. This is made out of that Crafter's Clay by Martha Stewart, and it's finished. And this you could, let me show you. You can dye this with almost anything. It takes ink really well. So there's our butterfly. So this is seam binding, and I'm going to make it match my tag. I'm not going to have the colors touch. I think actually I'll stop with that. But what I am going to do is just spray it. Dab some of the water out of it, which is also crinkling it really good. And then dry it. It's not all the way dry, but for the sake of time, so you would just tie it onto there. And you have a gorgeous finished tag that anyone would be thrilled to receive. Have fun making this. This is Dixie with DC Papercraft.